Good afternoon. Kathy Kinloch is a respected healthcare professional, an educator, public servant, and executive whose career of more than 30 years highlights the themes of leadership and service to others. Kathy has shaped the healthcare system and post-secondary education in British Columbia. She is widely recognized for her ability to see the opportunity in change and for her enthusiasm for leading teams toward a goal, particularly in organizational renewal in complex environments. She began her career as a registered nurse, completing her Bachelor of Science with distinction in nursing from the University of Alberta. She practiced nursing at Surrey Memorial Hospital before becoming vice president of the facility for 15 years. It was in those busy hospital corridors that Kathy discovered her leadership abilities and her satisfaction in improving how a complex institution does business. Her skills were put to good use when she was appointed one of the first chief operating officers of the Fraser Health Authority. She soon became a senior advisor at the BC Ministry of Health, where she helped to restructure orthopedic surgical services province-wide. Like many of our graduates here today, Kathy returned to university during her full-time professional career. She holds a Master of Arts in Leadership and a graduate certificate in executive coaching from Royal Roads, and received the Chancellor's Award upon graduation from her master's program. From healthcare, Kathy moved into post-secondary education as Dean of Health Sciences at British Columbia Institute of Technology. In 2010, she became president of Vancouver Community College. Kathy returned to BCIT as president in January 2014, where she remains focused on broadening and deepening BCIT's partnerships with business, industry, and community. Kathy considers her students her inspiration, calling them passionate innovators, dedicated to making positive change in the world. We are delighted to add to Kathy's awards and accolades, which include a 2017 Influential Women in Business Award from Business in Vancouver, as well as a place on Vancouver Magazine's Power 50 lists for 2 years running. She was named one of BC's most influential women twice by BC Business. She was also a YWCA Metro Vancouver 2016 Women of Distinction Award winner and was a public sector leader in 2015 and 2016 for the Canada's Most Powerful Women Top 100 Awards, presented by the Women's Executive Network. Wow. For her contributions to higher education in British Columbia, and her commitment to encouraging innovation in our public institutions, it is my sincere honor to present Kathy Kinloch for the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
Ms. Kinloch, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Royal Roads University Act and on the recommendation of the Board of Governors of Royal Roads University, it is my great pleasure to confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, with all of the rights, privileges, and honors here and elsewhere thereto appertaining. Ms. Kinloch will now be hooded by Dr. Steve Grundy. Dr. Cahoon will now present Dr. Kinloch with her degree.
So just to make sure you actually have it.
is with pleasure that I now call upon Dr. Kinloch to deliver the convocation address.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you. What an honor. Thank you, Chancellor Kathleen Burney, President and Vice Chancellor Alan Cahoon, and members of the board for this honor. I'm deeply, deeply touched to receive such a recognition, and particularly as an alum of Royal Roads. Thank you also, though, to the faculty and staff who've been tremendous in supporting the students here today who are graduates, and for the knowledge and passion that you have imparted with today's graduates. But most importantly, a huge congratulations to each one of you who's convocating today. I applaud your accomplishments. Well done. You know, convocation is actually one of my favorite times of the year at BCIT because it exemplifies hard work, passion, sacrifice, focus, and drive that students and those of you from their families are here today supporting their devotion to education, and in this case, an achievement to a goal, the beginning of another journey. I have wonderful memories of my own experience at Royal Roads, culminating in graduation and the anticipation of an unknown future adventures that would follow. Who would have thought? One of the most vivid for me still is being woken up to the unmistakable sound of the peacock searching for a mate. That unique wildlife at Royal Roads. And when I became an associate faculty, I was woken by a deer butting its antlers against the wall of the quad when I was sleeping on my very first night alone on campus. That scared me as well. I'm assuming that the wildlife still continues and flourishes at Royal Roads. When I attended Royal Roads, the province has just recently established the health authorities. I had accepted the role of a chief operating officer of Fraser Health, as you've heard, which covered a large geographic area. I started my career as a nurse and advanced to those increasingly senior roles over time in healthcare. And to sum up my experience, I assume some of you are familiar with the Dinan Pari's poem, The Trapeze Parable. Well, he presents life as a series of trapeze bars that we swing along progressively from one to another. Just think of that. Grabbing the next one just after we let go of the former. And between the bars is where we experience the most learning. I suggest you read it if you haven't already. It ends with this beautiful sentiment. Hurtling through the void, we may just learn to fly. Well, I was definitely hurtling when I was at Royal Roads, and I was learning. In fact, I felt like I was on a bit of a rocket. I loved my time here. We had such inspiring faculty and guest speakers and fellow students that we often forgot we were hurtling. I trust you to have had this experience at times during your time at Royal Roads. I learned the value of having a strong network to help me achieve a truly 360-degree perspective on various topics and issues, and I learned I was more courageous than I'd previously realized. I've come to believe strongly that curiosity and personal relationships are the foundation for success. The more you practice curiosity and connectedness as you go out into the world, the more effective you'll be, but it requires focus. Why do I say this? Because CEOs and leaders today at all levels tell me that one of the biggest challenges they have is finding the kind of people who can forge a confident path in today's complex world. In fact, I believe that two of the things that have helped me forge my confident path are insights I gained while studying leadership here at Royal Roads, and the importance of seeking viewpoints and perspectives and drawing on good old-fashioned courage. And these two traits are often intertwined. As you heard, I moved from healthcare to post-secondary education, which was another airborne leap on my life's trapeze. But the common thread between healthcare and education is that both sectors are undergoing much-needed change and innovation to respond to global technological revolution. And I love leading teams to embrace and implement change, helping the people on these teams fly between these trapeze bars. But change can take a long time, and certainly I get impatient like others. Shifting culture just doesn't happen overnight or without collective action. Throughout my career, one of the ways I've nurtured thoughtful decision-making, or tried to in the midst of change, is to seek perspective and advice of others. And I credit these wise and generous connections for contributing a great deal to success of any success I've had and I've enjoyed. One of my closest advisors, who's a friend as well, suggested that when leading change, we encourage our team to say, how can I do this 1% to 2% better? You might be surprised at that. But if that patient incrementalism seems less than ambitious, it's not. It's a prudent approach to making our lives better, step by careful step. For if we demand wholesale change, gamble on tearing down existing systems on the assumption that whatever comes next will be better, we run a very dangerous risk. But if we work individually and collectively on a series of 1% or 2% improvements, we have a chance of creating a cascade that can be successful. Another less direct mentor for me was the late Edwin Friedman, who wrote a book called A Failure of Nerve: Leadership in the Age of the Quick Fix. Now, I was introduced to Edwin Friedman by my mentor when I was attending Royal Roads. Friedman was a rabbi, a family therapist, an organizational consultant, and an advisor to US presidents. And in a book first published in 1999, he wrote, "We live in a seatbelt society, more oriented towards safety than adventure." This, he said wisely, put us at risk of 5 factors that undermine effective leadership that I believe are still very relevant today. Why? Because you have gained new insights and learnings as graduates, and you have the tools and abilities to avoid these risks. They are, the first, reactivity, which Friedman described as a tendency to react emotionally to events or to one another, rather than to lead. The second, herding. This might sound familiar, an over-reliance on consensus, which tends to leverage power to extremis. The third, blame displacement, a tendency to search for the guilty rather than taking time and self-reflection. And fourth, a quick fix mentality, where we look for the quick fix rather than taking a systems approach. And all 4 of these factors together combine to the fifth, a lack of a well-differentiated leadership. This is Friedman's failure of nerve, which then reinforces the 4, and it's a circular process. So how do we address this? Friedman said that we must find the nerve to venture out of the calm eye of the good feelings and togetherness, and to weather the storm of protest that inevitably surrounds a leader's self-definition. This would be my wish for all of you. Be bold, be self-differentiated, and step forward. Of course, it's risky. If effective leadership sometimes involves running against the tide, it also demands you're guided by a strong moral compass. And that's complicated, especially when so many leaders and institutions have lost the public's trust. If we want to be credible on strategy, we need to be clear about our values. I've returned to this advice again and again. It's timeless and effective for me, and I invite you to consider embracing this approach. Now, in closing, and by way of review, these are my hopes and your challenges as you return to your various careers. Work diligently for change in small increments that will add up to transformation. Be curious. Don't get lost in the data. There'll always be times when you have to make a hard decision based on the information you have at hand. But make lifelong learning a priority, even when it just means learning something about the person next to you. Carry everywhere a suitcase of curiosity and always be ready to go deeper. Be connected. Establish a supportive network of dissenting viewpoints. Finally, be bold and be brave, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. We need your judgment based on evidence and the best advice you can find. We need your courage rooted in a strong set of principles and values. We need your leadership for the good of your organization, your family, your community, and for our country. In short, we need you to take a stand and make a positive difference in this world. Congratulations again. I know you can do it. I encourage you to go out into this world and swing from your own trapeze. Thank you.